you want to start with your title, call sign, all of that?
Sure, Colonel Josh Witala. I go by half. I'm the 509th Bomb Wing Commander.
Colonel Jared Kennish, call sign Evil, 131st Bomb Wing Commander.
And I guess let's just start out with, I mean, it's pretty incredible to be sitting with you here on this base where those planes for this historic mission, Operation Midnight Hammer, took off from. We're sitting in front of one. Can you speak to, and I know we've been talking through this, just the size and scale of this operation, but what it meant for both of you to be a part of this and carry this out. Half, if you want to start, and then Evil, we could go to you.
Yeah, we couldn't be prouder of what this team accomplished. So you're talking about 4,000 total force airmen across hundreds of specialties working together as a team to make this mission happen. That's operations folks, that's maintenance, that's medical, that's support, all working together in an orchestrated way to support this mission. So we thank you for being here and helping us tell the story, and we just couldn't be prouder as commanders.
To carry on with that, I think that the big thing that I get from this is the pride from across the total force. I think that, you know, we've been working on the 509th and the 131st total force integration for the better part of 2 decades, and to see this all come together after working some of these problem sets for so long, I don't think that you could walk across the base and see who's guard and who's active duty. So the seamless integration of that function is just super impressive to me.
And you speak to the training for this moment. You run through the drills, the training, the calculations, all to be ready for this specific moment. Can you talk to both the training that goes into that, but just kind of the adrenaline in that moment when it actually is the real thing happening?
Well, for this specific mission set, we've been training for this across multiple AFSCs, different partners, different international communities, civilians, guard, active duty, just working on this one problem set. So to see that all come together and then watch the folks that were involved the night of the launch was just incredible. The focus that they had and the energy across the flight line and all the people involved was just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so throughout the year we do large force exercises where we get together and we train with our support players, 4th, 5th generation fighters, command and control platforms, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance platforms. You think about it like a football team at practice, right, where everybody's got their different roles to play. So we practice that multiple times a year. As we're getting ready to execute this, I just thought about how many times we'd actually practice this type of mission set and how many times we'd had those types of conversations from a planning perspective. So I think that was a huge part of success, was just the training that went into it beforehand.
Yeah, and you were talking about that moment that, you know, you got the order and only so many people knew of the mission that was actually going to be carried out, the secrecy involved. But then you talked to that moment of the visual of everybody from this base really pitching in. Mm-hmm. Can you speak to what that was like, that everybody was really running in to help? They knew something was going on, but didn't know exactly what it was. Mm-hmm. What was that moment like here on the base?
I think the background is, you know, the low observable community, especially in the B-2 program, is shrouded in secrecy, and Half can talk to this a little bit too, is how you integrate that into, you know, the youngest airman that comes onto the base, and how you have to keep that close hold and highlighted from Operation Midnight Hammer is how no one knew about it, and until President Trump came on and announced it.
Yeah, we talk a lot about the low observable aspects of the airplane and those characteristics, but we like to emphasize here the low observable culture that we have. So the culture of secrecy, the culture of strong operational security, and again, that extends to our youngest airmen here on base. And I'll tell you, as we got ready to launch the jets, our airmen absolutely understood the urgency of the mission. So the details are very close hold, but our airmen, I'll tell you, across this flight line, if there's anything wrong with the jet, they were running from their vehicles out to the airplane to correct those issues. So it was just incredible to see the team come together in an environment of secrecy, but very much dedicated and enthusiastic about getting the mission done right.
And just the level of secrecy too, and I don't know if you want to talk about this too, just the pilots themselves, also keeping them off the camera, behind the scenes for their level of protection and secrecy involved in a mission like this.
The pilots were certainly prepared for this. We know exactly who the most experienced people were, who we should have on the mission.
Yeah.
And that is something that they want to keep close hold. We're here because we're wing commanders in charge of the base, and our bios are out there on the internet. So we're here to protect them, and that's part of what they understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the pilots, this is something they don't talk about with their families, and really the whole broader community, make sure that there's no online footprint, there's no talking about these types of details outside the right environment. So that's definitely a burden they carry as individuals and as members of their own families, but it's just part of the job.
And if you can take us through, as much as you can, what might have been going through their heads in that moment when they get that command and then knowing they have to carry this out. And both of you have done over 30 hours flying this type of aircraft. What does that take to carry out? Just the mental and physical strength you have to have.
Well, they've been training for this for years, so I don't think that's an issue per se. I think they're prepared for it. They train to it. They've done it in large force exercises before. They've had previous combat experience, so nothing is there that would be surprising to them. They're more than ready for it, and I think the focus and their involvement leading up to it the days prior to get ready for it helped to keep everyone calm and focused.
Yeah.
So I think every pilot on the mission understood that this is going to be one of the most consequential raids of our lifetime. So I definitely think that was on their minds. But just like Evil described, this is something they trained for. This is something they're ready for. And it's not just the consequential nature of the mission, but it's also the grueling physical nature, like you said, of a mission that goes over 30 hours. So our pilots prepare by getting their sleep cycles right, managing their nutrition, and then building a plan for the sortie itself. So for instance, you'll have one pilot take a nap, get ready for that next air refueling while the other pilot flies, that portion of the mission. Then really you just swap out like that for over 30 hours. Obviously during the tactical portion, there's no resting, there's nothing like that. But you do try to pace yourself as a team. It's very much a team sport flying a mission that long.
Yeah, and you're talking about two, one from Air Force, one from Air National Guard, working together. But when you're up there, it's not really about titles or anything. You're working together on this mission. You're partners. Mm-hmm. Can you speak to that relationship of the two that are in there? We were up there. It's tight quarters.
Yeah.
Well, I think you build that relationship up with experience, previous deployments, flying together. We've integrated across really every AFSC on the base, so that's nothing new. Everyone that supports the pilots is TFI as well, so I don't know that there's any consternation once you're up there in harm's way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very close-knit community. We're a very small community. Most of the pilots who are on the guard side grew up on the active duty side, so they all grew up flying together. I'll be honest, when we stepped the crews out to go fly, it felt like stepping a bunch of close friends out and maybe even some family members out to go fly, because this is just such a small community. Yeah. We've known each other for a long time. And I think that absolutely helps the teamwork aspect, when you're working through something as difficult as a 30-plus hour mission.
And for you both to be a part of this and selecting really who's going on this mission, what was going through your minds as you were sending them out and waiting for that call that they're okay, that they're on their way back, that it was a success? What was that like for you, Evil, if you want to start?
Well, that was stressful, just to know where they're at. Obviously it's a very secretive mission. We followed to some degree. Once we knew they were safe, we still knew that they had more air refuelings to get home. So it wasn't over at that point. So I don't know that the sense of relief was really there until they flew up initial and pitched over their families and everyone knew they were safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been in the Air Force 22 years. The biggest moment of my career by far is when we knew the aircrew were safe. When we were tracking the timeline, we knew they were in friendly airspace. We thought they'd been successful with the mission. That's the biggest moment for me in my entire career. In terms of the line to go fly it, it was an easy decision for us to figure out the right mix of experience to go fly the mission.
And they were excited when they got that?
Oh, absolutely. Every B-2 pilot wanted to fly that mission.
Yeah.
Everyone.
They were raising their hands ready to go on that. And you talked about, and as much as you can, the actual part of where they're both, going through the the moment where they strike, can you talk to any of like what might be going through their mind, the adrenaline, the nerves, how you process that? I know you talked about a lot of the training, but how do you think that they were, as much as you can, speak to that moment on their behalf, going through that process?
Just training, repetition, practicing, it becomes second nature. To fly that long, and it's all over in a couple of minutes. They knew what they were doing. I imagine they didn't really stress about it until afterwards.
Yeah. So I got to step up into the cockpit, which was so cool, but also so small. Obviously, it's such tight quarters. You have 2 pilots in there. You're in there for 37 hours on this mission, and you go through the refueling, naps, eating right. Can you speak to what those 37 hours entail, including how you go through those refueling and how challenging this is?
Yeah, so really you start out on those refuelings with a plan of who's going to be primary for each one.
Yeah.
So you try to get rest before that, and then the air refuelings themselves are pretty challenging. So imagine 2 cruise ships trying to go real close to each other in the bow wave that's coming off of that. So with the B-2 shaped the way it is, there's a bow wave of air that comes off that can actually push the tanker around. So you have to come up very, very slowly for that approach to air refueling. And then the actual contact itself, you're always making fine adjustments to it. So when you have to do that for 10, 20 minutes at a time, it's pretty tiring, it's pretty challenging. So again, you trade off on that throughout the mission.
That's incredible. And then for your guys to go up there and just to push through this kind of mental, physical challenge.
Flight medicine will give you a schedule when the best times to nap will be. And then, of course, you have to balance that with mission need and the air refueling times.
Yeah.
But they'll look at all that, and you try to follow that as much as you can and take turns. But as Haf said, the B-2 itself is very easy to fly. Air refueling is probably one of the more harder things to accomplish, especially if there's any weather or turbulence.
And how do you nap on a mission like this when your excitement and your adrenaline is did they nap? Did they come back and tell you about this experience, what it was like for them?
Yeah, I think they attempted to nap.
Yeah.
So you get that schedule that Evil was talking about from the flight doc, and it's very scientific in terms of your circadian rhythm and everything else. But the reality is, like you said, there's a lot of adrenaline involved. You're pretty hyped up. So you do your best just to rest in between those events as you can and be ready for the tactical portion. Because the tactical portion, that's where you're working as a team, not only as a crew, but with your entire formation. And that's what you really, really practice. So just like a sports team runs through the same drills, same plays over and over, our pilots have done that year after year after year to prepare for this kind of mission. So that's when obviously you're planning to be at your sharpest and try to manage your rest for that.
But I can imagine there must be so much going through their minds when they sit in there. I mean, even, I sat in there and you could feel the weight of the plane, the weight of the moment, and you could just picture yourself in that moment being them and knowing what they were just about to embark on. I mean, that alone, the weight of that moment in this operation, did they talk to you about what that felt like? Did you think they understood as they sat in there what they were about to do?
They definitely understood it. Again, they fall back on the routine, constant training for the same thing.
Yeah.
That gets you through that. As you're flying over there, you're going through exactly how the strike will go in your head, and it's really just a matter of minutes. So they'll get through that and fall back on that. And it's just routine.
You must be so proud.
Very proud.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're incredibly proud of what they pulled off. It was just flawless from our perspective.
Yeah.
I asked one of the pilots a week after the mission, I was like, has it set in that you flew this historic raid? And he's like, I don't think it has yet set in. I think when a lot of our senior leaders visited, when President Trump congratulated our team, I think that helped it set in.
Yeah.
But I think it's a process to realize that you're a part of something that historic. Yeah. But in the moment, it's very much just focus on mission execution.
Yeah, to them it's an assignment, it's a mission, and they have a job to carry it out.
Right. I don't know that as they're executing the strikes, they're thinking of the geopolitical impact across the world and different international communities. But that is certainly going to set in at some point.
Right. Yeah, and I know we were talking a bit about the assessments and the reports, the things that they might have heard as they got home. Do you think that got to them personally, or do you think that they don't really listen to that stuff? Or?
I think our team absolutely understood how successful the mission was, and General Kane captured that really well in the press conference that he gave. And I think that's the story that not only our pilots, but our entire installation took away.
And can you speak to what any conversations with the president might have looked like for those pilots after the mission?
Yeah. So he absolutely congratulated the team and got to have conversations with them, which was, just a surreal and very humbling, very honoring moment for our team. So I think, again, that really helped cement for them what the mission was all about when they got that congratulations from our commander-in-chief.
Yeah.
I know the families and the folks that got to go to the White House were very appreciative, and they really rolled out the red carpet for everybody. It was really nice.
Yeah, heroes welcome, for sure. And he was the only one that could give the command to do something like that. So they heard essentially on the front end to go on this mission, and then on the back end congratulating them for the job well done.
Absolutely.
And can you speak to that moment when they all returned here? What was that like to welcome them back?
Yeah, so we talked about the culture of secrecy that we have here.
Yeah.
So the family members did not understand, what was going on with the mission until it was announced to the world. At that point, they started to gather over at the squadron and talk through what had happened. And we were able to bring them out on the flight line. So the jets, right behind you, flew up the runway, pitched out over initial, right over their family members who were out there waving and cheering as they came back. So it still gives me chills to think about that. There's a lot of family members, a lot of kids out there. They're never going to forget that their parents were a part of this.
They found out maybe as when the president announced it, basically.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah,
And
when
then-
the president announced it, that's when the families became witting, and that's when we kind of started to set up things here on base for them.
And that's when they started to understand that their loved one was on that mission. And
Yeah.
then they came here to greet them when they got back.
Yeah.
What was that
absolutely.
like to see that emotion going through?
It was a pretty special experience. I don't know that I've ever seen something like that in my career.
Yeah.
They were obviously relieved, not knowing where their loved ones had gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they had a lot of questions, so we just sat down and talked through, what the mission looked like. But they're just exceptionally proud of what their family members had
Yeah.
accomplished.
I'm sure a lot of people watching this, that welcome back their loved ones from service or from a mission, could imagine what that moment must feel like to hug your loved one. They got back safely, and you must have been so, like you said, relieved and proud that they were okay, successful mission, and
Absolutely.
landed back here. Okay. So now what does the future look like? What lessons have been learned from this? What does this mean for our capabilities going forward?
So I think that Operation Midnight Hammer to me really underscores the peace through strength approach. It shows that the United States is capable of defending itself at a time and place of our choosing. And I think going forward, it shows the value of long-range strike, particularly with the development of the B-21 and modernizing all the capabilities that you've been getting to see today with the B-2. So I think the B-21 will bring that capability into the future and make sure that we have this deterrent capability going forward.
Yeah.
The impact of that strike, I think, will make some of our adversaries second guess their planning going forward. In that regard, I think this historic strike will make a difference in projecting peace through strength.
And I know we were talking a bit about, we talk about the future of warfare, the technologies that are developing, the drones that are being used on the front lines of Ukraine and Russia and things like that. But then you come here and you see the size and scope of this kind of military might. There'll always be a need for something like this, the B-2, the B-21 you mentioned. How would you compare that, the future mixed with some of the past at the same time?
Well, I think Operation Midnight Hammer highlights how we still need long-range strike, low observable technology, and manned aircraft. They're, in this specific instance, this weapon is only carried by the B-2, and that highlights the necessity for those types of mission sets and the impact that it will have.
Yeah.
When you talk about what the B-2 brings to the fight in a unique way, what we like to talk about is range, access, and payload. There's a lot of long-range aircraft in the world. There's other bomber aircraft that have huge payloads, but when you combine with that the access that comes with stealth technology, and you have all three of those attributes, you have a very unique capability. So the ability to go from where we are in the middle of the United States, anywhere in the world, deliver a 30,000-pound weapon to destroy a deeply buried target, that's only going to happen with an aircraft like the B-2 or the B-21 in the future.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible. You mentioned too the weight. I know we'll get into it with the munitions and them being able to carry the weight of that? You mentioned it was 30,000 pounds each, so carrying two of
each.
those.
Yep.
It's just, this is the only thing that can do something like that.
Absolutely. And that weapon was designed for the B-2 and designed for this type of mission.
Wow. Do you ever think you'll experience anything like this in the future? Or are you always prepared for anything?
Yeah, we're always prepared for a mission like this, but I do think in our lifetimes this will be one of the most consequential raids that the Air Force will launch. I think it's a very unique mission.
We're always planning for the next critical adversarial threat. So we're doing that now.
Always ready. So what does it take to pull off a mission like this? It's not just the planes, the pilots. There's a lot more that goes into something like this than people at home might realize.
Yeah, I appreciate that question. So there are 4,000 total force airmen on this base across hundreds of specialties. I have medics, I have mission support, I've got maintenance, munitions troops, along with the operations folks, the pilots, the intelligence that go into it. So putting that entire team together and getting them all moving in the right direction to accomplish a mission like this under strict operational security, that's one of the biggest challenges we face. And I have to really just highlight the work of my group and squadron commanders and leadership teams in making that happen. The airmen who executed this mission absolutely understood the importance of it. I mentioned earlier that when you were out here on the flight line, watching this mission launch, you saw airmen running from their trucks to go address stuff at the jets. So that was true across all of our specialties. There are fingerprints all over this aircraft from 4,000 airmen who made this happen. So just couldn't be more proud of that team.
Yeah. And I think it's so incredible that they really didn't know exactly what was about to happen, but everybody raised their hand and, like you said, ran out here to make sure that they were involved. And you said you got chills at that moment, I think.
Yeah, it was incredible just watching young airmen make this mission happen. The burden we put on the shoulders of young airmen to make these missions happen is incredible, but we train them to it, we support them, and it's just an incredible community to make this happen.
What does it say to future generations too? I know we were talking about, the flyover at the White House or the flyover in Alaska when Putin was here. For young kids to see this in the skies or to see pilots pull off this type of operation, what do you think that speaks to the younger generations who may want to also do this someday?
Well, the hope is it drives them to be part of something bigger than themselves and join the military. And we need people across all the spectrums of maintainers, munition experts, pilots, everything that goes into this mission. And the team we have here highlights how special that can be. And if we can't get across to the younger generation, that puts the whole recruiting effort at risk. But hopefully those things speak to recruiting new folks into the military.
Yeah.
I think Operation Midnight Hammer fits into the legacy of some of our greatest airmen. In a small way, but in a tangible way. So I've been in the Air Force for 22 years. I've served in the units that the Tuskegee Airmen served in, that the Doolittle Raiders served in, that the pilots of the Enola Gay served in. So there's that proud legacy and heritage that our airmen have, and I think this is a small part of that. And I think when we look at that legacy, the takeaway for our airmen is look at what we're capable of. Look at the courage, look at the bravery, look at the innovation of generations past, and this mission is just another example of airmen stepping up and making a difference.
And I know we talked a lot about the pilots and the training and more of a focus on them, but I know you also were just a few days into that new role, and I just was curious if you could speak to what that moment was like for you.
Yeah, walking in as a new commander, I have to credit the team. They absolutely got me where I needed to be, got me spun up. Being part of this community on and off for 15 years, it helps. You walk in, you know the key personalities, you know the processes. But it was really the team getting me up to speed that I have to credit for that. But it was incredible walking in as a new commander. As we were doing the pre-takeoff brief for the crews, I was following along just like I did back when I was a squadron commander. And at some point in there, I realized I got to give a speech at the end of this. I've got to give the go to war speech as the wing commander. So I kind of changed my focus and wrote that out. But yeah, it was quite the experience coming in 3 days beforehand. But the team took care of me, and we got where we needed to be.
Can you share any bit of that speech?
Maybe part of it.
Okay.
So I told them that they were stepping out the door in the finest tradition of what it means to be an airman, and the finest tradition of what it means to be part of the 509th Bomb Wing. That they had my confidence, and that I knew that they would succeed. So that's the part I'll share.
Wow. That must have been a big moment for you to think of, what do you say to pilots about to go out and do this mission?
Absolutely.
How do you fire them up? How do you inspire them?
I don't think they needed to be fired up.
They were ready.
They were ready.
They were like, just let us go. Let us take off.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, they were anxious to get on with
Yeah.
it. The focus was just incredible.
Yeah, they knew the importance of the mission. They knew they were part of history. And they'd been training for so many years for this type of mission. They were just ready to go.
Yeah. Well, please send our thank you to them and sincere gratitude, and also to you both for taking the time to sit down with us and discuss this. We know how proud you are, so.
Thanks,
pretty
Kellie.
incredible.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.